So what we've got is we've got some files that when we change the window size, we get a different result than when we change the window size in our previous lab. In the previous lab, the components inside the window were of fixed width and we couldn't compress them. The window would just slide over them. In this one, we see that we have a maximum width of the window and we have a minimum width of the element inside the window, and we have a minimum width of the element inside the window. So we can't, this looks so bad. I don't know why it does that. Yeah. When I try and make that window bigger, it doesn't, the element doesn't get bigger. And when I make it smaller, it gets smaller until we get to a minimum, and then it doesn't make it any smaller. And so how is that done? That's done with these bit of code right here. So what we've done is we've said the window can be only, the smallest the window will go, or sorry, not the window, this is the container which contains that, that table. So the width of our white bit here, that's because the container has been styled to be white. We're making that white, whereas the body we're making gray. But the container itself, the white thing, that cannot be any bigger than 800 and cannot be any smaller than 500 in terms of its width. And so we're doing that with a max and a min. Now, the other factors that are happening there is we make the table itself take up 100%. That doesn't mean 100% of the page. That means 100% of whatever element the table is inside of. And if we look at the HTML code, we'll see that the table sits inside a container, a div that's actually called container. So whatever container is, container can take up a width somewhere between 500 and 800 pixels, cannot be more than 800, cannot be less than 500. So whatever the width of the container, the table will take up all of that width and only all of that width. And so we've done that with this 100% thing for the table. What else have we got going on in there? That's kind of it. Oh, well, these things are, this is legacy elements, I suppose you'd say, or these are things that we did before. And that is that those two columns for the telephone numbers, the mobile number and the landline number, those two columns are of fixed width. So though the table can change its width, and it does, those two columns do not change their width. And, you know, from a viewing point of view, an appearance point of view, that kind of makes sense because, you know, otherwise the numbers could be unreadable if they're sort of scrunched over two lines or something like that. And so that keeps them readable, and that's how that works. So those are the important features on the container, the contact support page. So let's look at the other pages now. So the product details page. So what's happening in the product details page? And I'm sure I've got that over here somewhere too. Too many windows. Product details page. What we see happening here is, again, all right, so we've got two divisions that are sitting in different columns with each other. So we've got a left column and another column that fits in. So we do that with the float left. We talked about that last time when we, yeah, I think in lab 4 maybe, or lab 3. So, or yeah, lab 4, I think we did that. But notice some other things happening. The image is actually changing size as we compress it. We notice that this column is it's actually going to change size as well. So that column compresses and the image compresses. We notice the table itself at the bottom, that compresses, but one of the columns doesn't compress. And so we've got this as a fixed width. The table is taking up a percentage. This division here, which has the details in it, that's got a percentage on it. And this column has a percentage on it, and we're not fixing the width of the image. And so how is that done? So what we can see, if we look in the text, we see we've got a division for the the product photo, that's going to be the left column. We've got another division, which is the product details. That's going to be the right column. And we, yeah, I guess that's all we need to, oh yes, the other thing that we notice is that the TH is the first column in the table. And so that is styled slightly differently than the others. And we can look at that. Okay, so the TH is given a fixed width. And so that's why it never compressed at all. But we notice the table itself, and maybe there's another table itself is wow, it's just given a border class. It's not actually styled for width, and so it's just it's just taking the default and expanding and contracting, taking up the entire element in which it sits. The other things there, okay, yes, the container for the entire box, we see that is set at 1,000. Oops, how did that happen? Can you believe that? Oh, let's open that again. I have to open each of these individually. Oh, well, I didn't need to. They're still there, but I'd lost that window. All right, so I don't, okay, so I got those. So product details. Yeah, let's look at the leftmost column. That's the thing where things are happening. And so in the leftmost column, which is called product image, I think. So if we look down here, we can see that our product photo, it's called, in the product photo column. So see if you can see that somewhere. There it is. So what we've done is we've set the width of the column to 20% of the total width of the page. And we floated that left. So that makes it compress. And the image itself, see if we can see what's happened with the image. There we go. The image itself has been set to a width of 100%. So it takes up the whole of the column. So whatever we do to the column, the image reflects that. It's not compressing. It's not, I mean, there's a certain minimum size that we've got there. Let's see if that minimum size is hard coded. And where we'd see that is in the container. No, it's got a max. So let's see in the product photo, 20%. Well, there's a certain, there are some fixed elements like the width of the table header. No, I don't see it in the image though. The image, so that's kind of like a default minimum width that we've got. No doubt something to do with the text in there. So we can compress it to this point and not beyond, but we haven't actually set that with any hard code. Okay, so that's what we've done there. Notice that there's two columns. There's the product photo column, which takes up 20% of the width, and there's the product details column, which takes up 100% of the width, and then the image is the 100% here for the image just means within this column, which is called the product photo column, the image takes up all the space that's available, taking into account any margins or paddings or anything like that. So that's how that one happens. Now, maybe the more interesting one, and I sort of saved the best to last maybe, is this one for the product list. Now, surely the page looks familiar, but when I start compressing it, that changes. Okay, so what we got happening, we've even got, so we compress the page and we see that, do you see that the pictures are actually getting smaller? Okay, the pictures actually get smaller and it sort of compresses down. So how is that happening? And we need to look at the different code to see what's happening there. And that's the product, not product details, but product list. And let's see. So what's happening with the product list is we've got our container. which the container is all the stuff that's white, right? So that's all of this. I really, I don't know. Are you guys having the same problem seeing that as I am? There it is. So that's been set to 1000 px. And then we've got, for the products class, we've got a class called product, and we've set the width to 31%. So as long as there's enough room in the window, you're going to 31% times 3 is like, what, 93%. So it's less than 100%, so we can get 3 of those in there. And the extra space becomes the sort of channels between them. And that's done with this margin 2% left. And the margin 2% bottom gives us a channel between the rows. And yeah, that's kind of basically all that's sort of happening there. We've set the width of the image to 100%, so it takes up the full space available inside the product. What do we call that? Just the product container. Sorry, the product image container. And we got some text in there, which we have aligned. And that's kind of the stuff that you really need to look at there. So it's really quite similar to what you've done before. All of this code should be the same. The only differences in code are stuff that I've shown you here. So with the product list, you've got the container there. I don't think that's actually changed, but the width of the image, 100%. So that's able to change size. And also the width of the actual the boxes in which they sit. So we're letting the box in which they sit compress, and we're letting the image compress. And so that's how we get this effect here, which is quite different than what you saw in the previous lesson. All right, so that's that one. So going back to the contact support, the difference there was that the table's compressing. We see that table's compressing. So contact support, if we look at the table was set to 100%, so it could compress. And yeah, I think that's about it, right? The other stuff was the same. Yeah, and then the other one, which is the product details, what we got going on there is this column is able to compress. So we've also set that to 1%. So in our product details, if you look at that, we'll see, well, actually we set it to 20% because the other column compresses as well. So we've let both columns compress, and that's been done by using percentages instead of PXs. So I'm going to stop there